News and information 570 AM, 96.3 FM, HD2.
More stories, more news.
KLIF.
Investigation into the wreck that killed Dallas Cowboys Jerry Brown has extended to the bar that served teammate Josh Brent alcohol the night of the wreck. To learn about these types of cases, we've brought in U.S. Attorney Steve Laird, who's handled cases like this in the past. Stephen, how do these cases get started?
Well, the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission investigates situations where there is a very serious injury or a death that occurs from someone having had a high alcohol content after leaving an establishment where alcohol was served. And in this case, the commission has investigated and apparently has already come to the conclusion, based upon the incident, that the Beamer's Private Club, where Josh Brent had been drinking before this collision, had apparently shown practices that promote excessive alcohol consumption by patrons.
When this thing is all said and done with, can Josh Brent's ex-teammate, can they go after the restaurant?
Yes, indeed. It's called a Dram Shop Act, and it is against a provider of alcohol who serves alcohol under a license. Now, this is to be distinguished from any type of social host where you might be having a group over on a Sunday afternoon and you have some beer or some wine or drinks. That's different because that's not being served under a license. It has to be proven that for there to be liability against the establishment, that the provider knows that the recipient is obviously intoxicated to the extent that he presents a clear danger to himself and others.
Talking to Fort Worth lawyer Stephen Laird, it's black and white in the rules, but it seems kind of gray in the sense that Josh Brent is probably a 300-pound guy. And what if he drank before he came to the club? Obviously, they've decided in this particular case that they have proof that he certainly did. However, if you're with your buddies and you go bar hopping and you go to 2 or 3 bars, it seems kind of gray.
Well, sometimes it is gray, and lawyers who are familiar with these cases know that there are certain pieces of evidence that have to be obtained, that you have to investigate to determine if there is going to be a successful dram shop case against the establishment. For example, you start with the individual's blood alcohol content, and then from there you get things like any type of credit card receipts showing how much and the type of alcohol and the time period, perhaps, that the alcohol was served to the recipient. Then you also try to find witnesses that can testify as to his conduct or her conduct in the establishment. One thing that you have to remember is that in Texas, you don't have to prove under Texas law that the establishment is 100% the cause of the ultimate injury or death by the intoxicated person. You have to show that the intoxication as a result of being overserved was a cause, that is, one of the causes that resulted in a person's injury or death.
My daughter is a hostess while she's going to Texas Tech, and she's worked at a couple of establishments. And basically, I guess it's fairly common practice for them to flag the manager and the bartender when they think someone is getting to that point.
Yes, and another thing that lawyers who are familiar with these cases know to look for is what are the written policies and procedures of the establishment concerning serving alcohol to patrons. For example, what are some signs and symptoms to look for by bartenders and waitresses and waiters, as well as any type of policy and procedure about what steps to take if there is a suspicion that somebody is becoming intoxicated. There are other things to look at, too, such as happy hour. What are the policies and procedures during happy hour? Is there any particular limit by policy and procedure on how much, what type, or how many drinks a patron can order at one time? Is there some type of way to monitor how much an individual is consuming if they go up to the bar and they buy 8 beers, for example. Well, is there any policy and procedure in place for the bartender, waiter, or waitress to start monitoring that person to make sure that that person does not drink all 8 beers versus sharing it with the table?
Talking to lawyer Steve Laird. You know, I correct me if I'm wrong, it seems like years ago I remember reading more and more about this, and then it kind of went away for a little bit, and it seems like over the last 2 or 3 years I'm seeing more cases of this again.
Yes, there is at least a perceived increase in these type of so-called dram shop cases. An experienced lawyer is going to know to investigate and explore that situation, trying to find out where that person had been drinking, how much, over what period of time, what type of policies and procedures were in place at the establishment. Were there policies and procedures in place also that promoted excessive consumption of alcohol, such as the way that happy hour is not only advertised, but the way that it's carried out, monitoring. All types of information has to be looked at and investigated anytime that there is alcohol that is connected to an establishment resulting in a serious injury and especially a death.
Steve, I appreciate you jumping on for a couple minutes. If people have additional questions for you, do you have an email or a phone number?
Sure. My email is Laird, Laird, at Tex Lawyers. That's TexLawyers.com. Laird at TexLawyers.com.
Steve, I appreciate you jumping on. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Stephen Laird. 422 on KLAF News and Information in the afternoon.